Hey, my name is Phil and it's way past my bedtime, but I've got Devil May Cry 5 to play. Welcome to First Hour Reviews. Welcome to First Hour Reviews. My name is Phil. I'm a tired, viciously time-restricted father who just wants to review the latest video games solely based on their opening 60 minutes. Episode 1, Devil May Cry 5, ow! I, for one, am very, very excited about playing this game. I've been a huge fan of the franchise for, what? Have you been a fan as well, babe? Been a big fan of the whole franchise for about 18 years, which is how long it's been around for. And I think the sort of fast-paced hack and slash, keep watching your eyeballs will dry out kind of game is what I need right now. Because the only reason why I review games based on 60 minutes is because of my co-presenter, who you've probably seen and definitely heard, Josie. She keeps me up most nights, and all of my time and attention, as it should be, is paid towards her. So after all that, she leaves me about 60 minutes of me time on the PlayStation before I pass out due to exhaustion myself. So before we jump into Devil May Cry 5, we might as well pay a quick revisit to the history of the franchise. What began as a radically obscure sequel to Resident Evil 2, Devil May Cry hacked and slashed its way onto PS2s in 2001. We were introduced to Dante, a brooding half-demon, half-angel gothic biker hybrid dude who took on a job to kill his father's greatest adversary. The game was met with mass critical acclaim and instant classic cult status, so it was only natural that a god-awful sequel was pummeled together in 2003. The less said about that the better, because it gave fans the impression that Dante and his smouldering charisma were dead in the water already. Yet, against all odds, all was forgiven in 2005 when arguably the best of the franchise, the delicious prequel Devil May Cry 3, came back kicking, screaming, and oddly shirtless. Not only was Dante younger, cooler, and quippier, the combat was also faster, smoother, and much more varied. I mean, he killed folk with a bat-summoning electric guitar, for demon's sake. The dawning of the PS3 and Xbox 360 brought with it not only a fourth installment, but a new hero, or rather a new Nero, to the already bonkers yet delightfully convoluted narrative. Pulling a bit of a Metal Gear Solid 2, fans were a little dismayed to be playing as the new kid, but following the lush visual upgrade and vastly overhauled frantic stylish gameplay, sales were strong, proving that it didn't matter who you controlled, as long as it had Devil May Cry in the title, it was gonna be well received. Or so we thought, as when the incredible team behind Ninja Theory created an outstanding reboot, the drastic shift in direction was just too much to bear in some people's eyes. DMC was simply a staggering game that rejuvenated an arguably tiring formula. However, in doing so, it also managed to rub cynical die-hard Dante fans up the wrong way. I must warn you though that this next clip contains highly offensive material.
Not in a million years.
Regardless of how fluent, immersive and genius the combat environments and boss fights were, the younger Dante's obnoxious behaviour and general outlook on life was just far too poisonous and insulting, leaving Devil May Cry fans crying #not my Dante, and violent action game fanatics crying #but it's still really good though. Critics were overjoyed, but lifelong fans got their eye for it in a twist, boycotting the game and ultimately leading to poor sales and seemingly the death of the franchise. Years went by, but the wind was still rife with rumours, leading eventually to the official announcement of Devil May Cry 5 during E3 2018. For what is promised to be a return to chaotic form for Capcom and their band of freelancing demon hunters, can this latest entry wash out that bad taste left from DMC? Enough harping on, let's rock, baby. Jackpot. From the first decapitation of one of Hell's loyal demonic insects, this feels like a classic Devil May Cry game. The fluent, stylish combat with the somewhat complementary sluggish pace is what made DMC's gameplay so inspirational, and it's amazing to see, or rather feel, that it's still present despite the huge ramp in tempo introduced in Ninja Theory's reboot. The ease at which you can slash your way through the battlefield, moving from target to target, is simply divine, to the point where I honestly can't think of another game in the genre that even comes close to its flowing, graceful execution. Whether you're surrounded by a dozen enemies or just that one big bad boss, Devil May Cry 5's combat never slows down or suffers due to its surroundings, making this in my opinion one of the finest hack and slash adventures in recent memory, or perhaps ever. Within the first hour of gameplay I was introduced to two of the game's three protagonists. First off is Nero, who we meet attempting to defeat the nefarious Demon King after he makes short work of Trish, Lady and even the legendary Dante. 2 months later we find him and sidekick Nico, the mobile gunsmith, sporting a rather Deadpool-esque opening credit sequence before jumping back into the streets to tear off a limb or two. Nero's trademark combat style was based off his pretty blue demonic arm. However, after he has it torn clean off by a hooded figure, wielding a trademark katana I might add, nudge nudge, his stump has been fitted with a number of robotic arms capable of almost everything. Thank you, babe. I couldn't have said it better myself. These arms, or rather devil breakers, can be used to shock, whip, and blast enemies away with ease, and it's this evolution in Nero's gameplay that makes this otherwise Dante clone well, not a Dante clone. Each devil breaker has two unique forms, a quick trigger attack and a supercharged up attack, and these attacks can very easily turn the tide of battle, particularly with boss fights when you need to create an opening to heal and just simply take a breather. Knowing when to juggle Nero's sword, gun, and devil breakers makes him such a joy to play as, especially seeing that DMC's combat is all about how stylish and exciting you can make it, and experimenting with 3 styles of gameplay certainly make that happen. With upgrades that can fire out a rocket-powered arm, shoot a concentrated laser beam, or simply turn into a controlled explosion, Nero's Devil Breaker attacks are incredibly exciting to play with, and knowing how to master them will see you making short work of the game's many hordes of demonic enemies. We eventually meet new goth on the block, V, who I like to call the reason you must pick up this game. Despite his trim figure, cool tats, and somewhat familiar hairstyle, V doesn't possess the strength to attack anyone. No, seriously, V doesn't attack. However, what does instead are his otherworldly companions, Griffin and Shadow. Taking place of your typical heavy sword attack button is Shadow, a panther capable of tearing through enemies like a fire hose through bread. Whereas on the literal other hand is Griffin, an electrically induced bird that covers all of your long range attacks. Actually, I must confess a lie. V can actually attack, but only when each enemy is in a really knackered state. So when the time is right, zip V across to the groggy monster and deal the killing blow. V is genuinely unlike any character I've ever played as, regardless of genre, as not only must you keep an eye on enemies for your familiars to kill, but you must also stay out of the fight. Did I mention that Griffin and Shadow can also temporarily leave the battle? If their health is wiped out, they enter a stalemate, a form in which they regain vitality gained by your actions in battle. So you've got to keep them alive, whilst also keeping yourself alive, but you've also got to land attacks with them whilst making sure attacks don't land on you. Oh, did I also mention that V reads poetry to regain Devil Trigger? I might have mentioned it to you, but I've not mentioned it to them, have I? Man, this bloke has it all, and clearly the team responsible at Capcom have it all. As not only are we playing as 3 main characters, but all 3 of them play so differently, so originally, and just so well. If there's ever a time to pick up a brutal and super slick hack and slash adventure, then Devil May Cry 5 is the game to play. No questions asked. Isn't that right, Josie? So while Josie's having her bottle downstairs, I thought I might as well feed you my final thoughts. In all honesty, this is the 5th, or rather 6th incarnation of Devil May Cry, on a formula that's been tested and tried to death. However, my pessimism shouldn't have been a concern. I mean, in fact, I feel ill, I feel offensive just having any doubts about this game in the first place. Because quite simply, Devil May Cry 5 is the best Devil May Cry game there has ever been. Period. It might even be one of the best action, adventure, hack and slash games, whatever you want to call it, on the market right now or ever. Everything about it is amazing. The combat is fluent and stylish and cool and just flawless. The fact you can just move around the battlefield with so much ease just makes this game an incredible joy to play. It's easy to pick up, not easy to master, but it's easy to pick up and understand to a degree what you're supposed to be doing. I've not gone into much about the story because if I've learned anything from playing these games over the years is that the story takes a back seat. As well, I mean, I'm currently playing Bayonetta 2 on my Switch, and what I've learned is just skip the cutscenes and just play doesn't really make any sense, and it doesn't stop the fun, really. There's no reason why you need to pay attention to this strange story about witches, and in this case, demons and devils. Who cares? It's fun, it's chaotic, it doesn't make a whole lot of sense, but you know, it's cool still to see it unfold, so I'll find out soon in a few hours time exactly how this story pans out. Obviously, because I'm only reviewing this game based on 1 hour of gameplay, I can't give it a rating as such. However, what I can do is give it a solid recommendation, and a solid recommendation it's getting. Devil May Cry 5 or V is V or 5 good. Doesn't really make sense. Highly recommend Devil May Cry 5. Oh my god, I can't wait to go back on it right now. Sum it up in one word, what would it be? Great, couldn't have said it better myself. Well, there you have it. From Devils Crying, we now go to Shadows Dying. Twice. So until then, I've been Phil Dean, she's been pretty well behaved, and this has been First Hour Reviews. Farewell.